New peeps, this is Kim, and I'm back with another word of the day video. Today we are going to continue our discussion on covenant. We are going to continue our discussion on covenant promises. In the first video we did on covenant, we defined covenant. We defined it as a formal agreement between two or more parties where they agree to do something specifically or to not do something specifically. And we also defined the biblical definition of covenant, which was the conditional promises that God made to his people. The conditional promises that God made to Abraham and his seed. That's the and we made sure to emphasize that these promises are conditional. Remember, we said that the love of God is not conditional. God's love is unconditional. God is going to love you no matter what. He is going to love you no matter what you do, no matter what decisions you make, no matter which way you take your life and which direction you go in life. God is going to love you because his love is unconditional. However, his promises, his covenant promises, are not unconditional. There are certain conditions and certain requirements that you have to meet in order to receive the covenant promises of God. So he loves everybody, but he's not in covenant with everybody. Covenant is an agreement that you enter into with God of your own free will, and you cannot do it unless you have acknowledged that he exists, that Jesus Christ is his son, and that he is Lord, and you have accepted Jesus Christ into your life as your Lord and Savior. That's what it takes to enter into covenant with God. And once you have entered into covenant with God, then you have to meet the requirements on your end of the covenant in order to receive his covenant promises. Now we are going to get into exactly what are his covenant promises. And we're going to start that today. That's where we're going to start today. We're going to get into exactly what are his covenant promises. Exactly what covenant are we talking about? Where can it be found in the Bible? What are his covenant promises? So we're going to go to Genesis 12. Genesis 12, and we're going to start at verse 1. Now the Lord said unto Abram, get thee out of thy country, and from thy kindred, and from thy father's house, unto a land that I will show thee. So we have the Lord speaking to Abram. And he tells Abram, I want you to leave your country. I want you to leave your kinfolk behind. And I want you to get out of your father's house unto a land that I will show you. And I will make of thee a great nation, and I will bless thee, and I will make thy name great, and thou shalt be a blessing. And I will bless them that bless thee, and I will curse them, and I will curse him that curseth thee. And in thee shall all families of the earth be blessed. This is the covenant between God and Abram. God hadn't changed his name yet. Abram. I will make of thee a great nation. I will bless thee. I will make thy name great, and thou shalt be a blessing. I will bless them that bless thee. I will curse him that curse thee. And in thee all families of the earth shall be blessed. Now, we have promises right there. We have promises from God to Abram right there. The first promise is, and I will make of thee a great nation, which simply means that he would cause Abram, to be the father of a great nation. That from him would stem a great nation, a great multitude of people. He said, and I will bless thee. Bless means I will empower thee. That's what it means to be blessed. I will empower thee. I will pour out my power onto thee and I will empower you. Then he says, and I will make your name great, which means your name will be great, which means your name will be significant. It will stand for something. It will mean something. It will be a great name. And even now, all these centuries later, his name is still great. His name still carries weight. And God said, and thou shalt be a blessing, which means I will cause you to, not only will I empower you, but I will cause you to be able to empower other people. As I bless you, as I empower you, you will be able to empower other people. In verse 3, he says, and I will bless them that bless thee. I will empower them that empower you. He says, and I'll curse him that curse you. So those that stand against you, those that oppose you, those that try to come against you to do you harm, those that try to come against you to speak against you with their mouths and to cause you any kind of harm, I will curse them because they have cursed you. So I will do unto them what they have done unto you. If they bless you, I will bless them. If they empower you, I will empower them. If they harm you in any kind of way or speak against you in any kind of way or seek your destruction in any kind of way, then I will do it. I will do that exact same thing unto them. And in thee shall all families of the earth be blessed because of you, because of this covenant, because of this agreement that we are entering into today. All families of the earth shall be blessed. Now, those are the beginning of the covenant promises that God made unto Abraham. Now, we've already discussed, we've already settled the issue that covenant promises have requirements. They are based on conditions. So we're going to go back to this scripture and we're going to see, because God has made the promise now. He has made the promise to Abram. The promise is, I will make of thee a great nation. I will bless thee. I will make thy name great. Thou shalt be a blessing. I will bless them that bless you. I will curse them that curse you. And in thee all families of the earth shall be blessed. Now let's go back and see what Abraham had to do what Abram had to do to receive these covenant blessings. Let's go see what he had to do. Now the Lord said unto Abram, get thee out of thy country and from thy kindred and from thy father's house unto a land that I will show thee. And I will make of thee a great nation, and I will bless thee, and make thy name great, and thou shalt be a blessing. And I will bless them that bless thee. I will curse him that curseth thee, and in thee shall all families of the earth be blessed. Verse 4. So Abram departed as the Lord had spoken unto him, and Lot went with him. And Abram was 75 years old when he departed out of Haran. Haran was his hometown. That was the country that he lived in. And Abram took Sarai his wife, and Lot his brother's son, and all their substance that they had gathered, and the souls that they had gotten in Haran, which means the families, the servants, everybody that was a part of Abram's household. And they went forth to go into the land of Canaan. And into the land of Canaan they came. So, God goes to Abram. He says, okay, this is what I want you to do. I want you to leave the land. I want you to leave your homeland. I want you to leave your kindred, your family. I wanted you to leave out of your father's house. And I want you to go until this land that I will show you. And these are the things that I'm going to do for you if you meet this condition. This is how I'm going to bless you. These are my promises to you. I'm going to make your name great. I'm going to make you a great nation. I'm going to bless you. And I'm going to cause you to be a blessing. I'm going to bless those that bless you. I'm going to curse those that curse you. And through you, all families of the earth shall be blessed. And verse 4 says, so Abram departed as the Lord had spoken unto him. That was the condition that he had to meet. That was the requirement that he had to meet in order to receive these promises that God had just made him. What are the promises again? I will make of thee a great nation. I will bless thee. I will make thy name great, and thou shalt be a blessing. And I will bless them that bless thee, and I will curse them that curse thee, and in thee shall all families of the earth be blessed. Those were the promises. What was the condition? That you get out of thy country and away from thy kindred and leave thy father's house and go unto a land that I will show thee. So we have the promises and we have the condition that had to be met. We had the requirement and the thing that Abram had to do to fulfill that requirement so that he could receive the promises that God had just made him. And it says in verse 4, so Abram departed as the Lord had spoken unto him. So he met the condition. He met the requirement to receive the covenant promises. Now, these promises cover a lot of stuff, and we'll get into that as we continue this series on covenant promises. These promises contain a lot of stuff. There were a lot of things that were included in these promises. When he says that I will make of thee a great nation, there was a promise attached to that. When God says, and I will bless thee, there are material, financial, natural blessings attached to that. When he says, and I will make thy name great, there are promises connected to that as well. But this is the promise. This is the beginning of the covenant promise, the beginning of the covenant relationship between God and Abram. It started right here. This is it. This is where the covenant began, right here. And understand this. Yes, this is Old Testament. And yes, we are now in a new covenant through Jesus Christ. But understand, Jesus Christ did not come to erase anything in the Old Testament. He came to fulfill it. He came to fulfill the Old Testament. By fulfilling the Old Testament, he became the author of the New Testament. So none of these promises to Abram went away. The promises in the covenant right here that you see between God and Abram, none of those promises went away. Those promises still stand today. For those who are in covenant with God, these promises still stand today. These natural promises. These are not the spiritual promises. We get the spiritual promises through Jesus. These are the natural promises, and they are still a part of the new covenant. The new covenant is a better covenant with better promises. Why are they better? Because now we have spiritual promises. Now through Jesus, we have promises that are so much stronger and so much better than just the natural promises that came to us through Father Abraham. But we'll get into that. We'll get deeper into what these promises consist of, what these promises contain. We will get into that. We will get into breaking down these natural promises. Because a lot of people have lost it, and they don't realize that these promises are still a part of the New Testament. They are still a part of the new covenant that was shed, that was sealed in Jesus's blood. We will get into this covenant being sealed in blood as well. We will get into that. But first, all I want you to see is that this is where covenant relationship began. This is when God first came to man and offered man a covenant. And it is a blood covenant, because you will see that blood will be shed to seal this covenant. But this is where it starts, right here. Verse 12. Now the Lord said unto Abram, get thee out of thy country, and from thy kindred, and from thy father's house, unto a land that I will show thee. He didn't even tell him where he was going. He just told him it'll be a land that I'll show you. And I will make of thee a great nation, and I will bless thee, and make thy name great, and thou shalt be a blessing. And I will bless them that bless thee, and I will curse him that curseth thee, and in thee shall all families of the earth be blessed. So Abram departed, as the Lord had spoken unto him, and Lot went with him, and Abram was 75 years old when he departed out of Haran. So he was 75 years old when he entered into covenant with God. And y'all running around talking about, well, I'm getting too old, and it's too old for me to do, I'm getting too old to do this, and I'm getting too old to do that, and I'm getting too old. No. If God has made you any promise, no matter how old you are, if he has made you a promise, if you are in covenant with God and he has made you a promise, and you meet the necessary conditions to receive that promise, no matter how old you are, you will receive that promise. Because as you can see, Abram was 75 years old when God first spoke to him, and they entered into covenant. How did they enter into covenant? God told Abram what he wanted him to do, and told him what the promises were if he did it. And what did Abram do? He did exactly what God told him to do. And Abram departed. He left. Just like God told him to leave. He left. He met that condition. He met that necessary covenant requirement so that he could receive the promises that God had just made him. Now, did he receive them right off the bat? No. Took some time. But we'll get into all of that. We'll get into breaking down these promises. We'll get into breaking down the covenant promises. We'll get into breaking down the covenant symbolized in blood, because there is a blood act that seals the covenant. It's only a representation. It's only a symbol of the covenant. We'll get into all of that. We'll get into how God manifests what he promised. We'll get into all of that as we go on in this series. But the main thing I wanted you to see here is this is the beginning. Genesis 12. This is the beginning of the covenant between God and man. We see God giving the commandment. We see God making the promise. And we see Abram doing as God told him to do. We see him obeying. We see him meeting that covenant condition, that covenant requirement. So until we come back with another video and we get back into and get deeper into this discussion of this covenant between God and Abram, read it. Read all of chapter 12. Read it and get an understanding. And you will be able to see for yourself that there was a condition that had to be met. There were promises made based on that condition being met, and you will see Abram meeting that condition so that he could get those covenant promises. Again, it's Genesis chapter 12, start at verse 1. Today we read verse 1 through 5. But you can go in and you can study it more so that you can see for yourself that yes, this is covenant. God spoke. He made promise. He put a condition there. He made promise. He made promises, and there was a condition that had to be met in order to receive those promises. And Abram met that condition. God said, leave. Abram departed. He left. And that's what put him in a position to receive the promises of God, because he obeyed. He met that requirement. He met that condition to receive those promises that God made him right there in Genesis 12 and 2 and 3. Genesis 1 is the commandment. Genesis 2 and 3 are the promises. Genesis 4 is Abram meeting that condition, meeting the condition that he had to meet in order to receive the promises that God had just gave him. So that's it for this video today. Go read, pray, and ask God for understanding so that you can see for yourself that, yes, this is the beginning of the covenant between God and man. And understand, if you are born again, if you have received Jesus Christ as your Lord, this covenant pertains to you. This one right here pertains to you. This covenant right here is still alive and well. So until we come back again and we continue with covenant, be blessed, read the word, and stay tuned.